So, students, this is going to be your introduction to ethics for your Ethics in Society class. Our learning objectives for this lecture is first, I want you to be able to explain what philosophy, what ethics, and what subdisciplines of ethics are. Be able to explain and identify levels of ethical inquiry, and to be able to explain the focus of the main types of normative theories. So the first thing I want to do is to talk about generally where philosophy falls into the different types of disciplines. So philosophy is a humanities. A humanities is the discipline that focuses on human creations and discoveries, such as language, religions, and philosophy. Okay, so underneath humanities would be religious studies and philosophy, also Spanish, Mandarin, things like that, linguistics. The next would be social sciences, okay? So social sciences are different from humanities and they use different methods. So I'll be emphasizing this when we're talking about it, because I'm going to be teaching you how to use the tools that are philosophers' tools and to make sure that we're using different tools, different terminology, and different ways that we specifically mean those words. Words are often the tools that we're using in academics. To make sure that we're separating social science tools from humanities tools from natural science tools. Okay, the social sciences, the scientists and the natural scientists go out there in the real world and they go dig things up and they go study different animals and things like that. And us philosophers sit on our butts, okay, and we think. So very different ways of discovering. So for social sciences, we have things like cultural anthropology or economics, sociology, things like that. Natural sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, environmental science. Okay. Now, philosophy as a discipline does certain fundamental things. It questions basic assumptions. It investigates concepts. It systematically organizes knowledge, and it inquires into philosophical questions. So here's an active learning chance for us to look at these different questions and see which category or which discipline we would put them in. So if the question is, who do Mormons hold has the authority to interpret what God wills? Okay, what discipline would that be? If the question is, what are the traditions of organizing society in contemporary Paris? Next, what is the best evidence about recurrent flooding from reputable climate scientists? And finally, what is justice? What are the ideals, goals, and grounds of behaving justly? Okay, and so the options are philosophy, environmental science, religious studies, and sociology or cultural anthropology. Now, there are four major subdisciplines of philosophy, some of which we'll touch on when we are doing ethics. So the first major branch is metaphysics. These ask questions about really fundamental assumptions and concepts on the nature of being. Okay, so questions like, what is freedom? Okay, how is freedom different from liberty, if it is different? Okay, what is space? Things like that. That's metaphysics. Epistemology studies the nature of knowledge. Okay, so what is justification? Things like that. Logic studies good reasoning. So what counts as a good argument? And we'll be using standards from logic throughout. Finally, ethics is in value theory. Value theory is theories about what one values. So it could be about art. So aesthetic value could be about politics, so political philosophy. These are on what is and what should be valued. So match the inquiry with the subdiscipline, either metaphysics, epistemology, logic, or value theory. Here's one of the questions. Is democracy the best political system? Next, what are the limits of our knowledge? Next, does free will exist? If so, what is it? Number 4, why are some arguments fallacious, meaning defective or bad? 5, how should one be to be a good person? 6, what is time? And 7, what makes good and logical reasoning? So what is ethics? Ethics is the systematic attempt to reason with moral values about ideals or standards of human behavior. Now, I'm going to emphasize that it is the systematic attempt to reason. It is an ongoing process, okay? Ethicists work on this material throughout the history of philosophy. It is, again, a value theory, and it's prescriptive, or states what one ought to do or ought not to do. So it's not a merely descriptive theory saying this is the way the world is. It's instead prescriptive. This is the way one should be. So for an active reflection exercise, I want you to imagine that you're explaining to a dog thief why it's morally wrong to steal that dog. Use words like should not, because, and therefore. Now, there are 4 main types of normative ethical theories, and these offer standards and reasoning that support those standards for good human conduct. So intentionalist theories start with looking at the motive or the intention of the agent to discern whether the action is good or bad. An example of this is my professor, Dr. Michael Sloat, who teaches at Miami, and he's a virtue ethicist and an intentionalist. His standard holds that if you're doing it out of benevolence or beneficence, it's good. If you're doing it out of malice or indifference, it's bad. Deontological theories offer a way to consider what it is one's duty to do, so what one ought to do. So these are act-oriented, so they focus on what behavior should occur at a particular time. We will focus on Immanuel Kant, and we'll also look briefly at W.D. Ross as well. For consequentialist reasoning, these look at the impact or effects of the behavior or habits in order to determine whether something is good or bad. We'll focus on John Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham, the utilitarians. Finally, virtue ethics. This focuses not on what one should be motivated by, how one should act, or what impact those behaviors or actions should have to measure whether something is good or bad. It's instead not looking at action, it's looking at the character of the person themselves. So this focuses on who one should be rather than how one should act. We'll look at Aristotle, and we'll also look at the Stoics. So when we're conceptualizing this, we can look at this as the whole process, okay, of behavior, starting with first thinking. So a human thinks about what they're going to do. They have goals, they have motives, they have intentions. when somebody gets up to go out of the room, okay, normally they remember why they're doing it and they have a goal in mind. They're going to get a glass of water or they're going to answer the door, okay? So voluntary behavior is what we're talking about here, okay? Behavior we can judge as moral or immoral, or we could say it a different way, morally praiseworthy or morally blameworthy. So, so some theories focus on what is the intention, and these are called intentionalist theories. Some focus on the middle part, on the act itself, and these are deontological theories. And finally, some theories focus on the effects or the impact, the consequences, and these are called consequentialist theories. So, I want you to think about this. If somebody, I'm going to describe something. I want you to match this to which aspect of the whole process is being focused on to judge the behavior or the person. So is it the intention, the act itself, or the consequences of the action? So number one, lying to one's friend is normally an impermissible thing to do. Number two, lying because one wants more for oneself than one's merits is wrong. Finally, doing something that results in distrust and problems in a friendship is wrong. So again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out when they're judging lying as wrong or impermissible, what aspect are they focusing on? Right, the intention, the act, or the consequences. Now, ethics can be thought of as having different layers or different levels of thought. So we can think very specifically about what we call practical ethics, or sometimes we talk about social ethics. And what we're doing there is we're thinking about real world situations and how one should behave or how one should prevent being in bad situations. So this is right on the lowest level, specifically directed at certain circumstances and realms of things that get brought up normally, like things we've already talked about, like lying or breaking promises or sowing distrust, things like that. Now we go one step up and we're just thinking theoretically about what good is or what right is and what standards generally should be expected of people. So it should be universalizable, meaning everybody should be able to be held to this type of standard. And what kinds of standards should guide one's moral behavior and moral reasoning. Finally, the very top is conceptualizing the nature of the enterprise of ethics itself. If I say this is wrong, what is it that, what kind of claim is it that I'm trying to make? Okay. So we'll spend much of our time in the theoretical and practical ethics, and we won't have as much time to spend on the meta-ethical level. So I want to leave off with this. I want you to think about what you think about. Okay, I'm going to quote this Kurt Vonnegut poem. Tiger got to hunt, bird got to fly, man got to sit and wonder why. Tiger got to sleep, bird got to land, man got to tell himself he understands. So what do you wonder about? Philosophically, for ethics, are you justice oriented? Do you ponder about rights? Do you think about duties? I'll leave off there.